Broncos Country, what is going on? This is the post-game show. Broncos, Packers, starting a little bit early, but we got a 27-0 lead. Doesn't matter. We're here to talk about Bo Nix. We got our franchise quarterback. That is my reaction. He was flawless today. 8 of 9, 80 yards, a touchdown throw, and 13 yards on the ground, I believe. We have some other players that definitely stepped up, stacked great games from last week to this week with the Packers. We're going to talk all about it. Be sure, not only subscribe here, subscribe to my friend Marky Sports on YouTube as well. I will link it in the comments in the description. Smash that like. Let us know your thoughts. This is a conversation, but let's go ahead and introduce my friends. You guys have seen them. Jeremy, Marc, thank you guys so much for joining me tonight on this post-game reaction. I guess I'll let you guys take it away. I guess I'll ask you to kick us off, Marc. What were your initial impressions of today's game and Bo Nix?
I mean, man, it was perfect. It was exactly what you could hope for. You know, I talked about in the keys to the game is you wanted to see what happened last week continue this week. It did, which is awesome. He looked poised. He just looks comfortable. Like he just looks like he belongs there. And obviously I wasn't frustrated, but it would have been nice to see it against, the starting unit for the Packers. But I mean, at the end of the day, like he's got all the tools in his tool belt for sure, man. So I love it. And I think that overall, it's funny because I wouldn't say we got more answers tonight. I think we kind of knew it after last week. This kind of just confirmed it, but I think we have a little bit more question marks from the roster overall in terms of on some positions, but it's a great time to be a Bronco fan. I really don't want to get, overly ahead of ourselves. We haven't even played a regular season game yet, but it's exciting, man. And it feels like just really across the board. It seems like anyone I talk with, whether on Twitter or in real life, is saying, we've got our guy. We got a guy that we can finally build a team around. So it finally feels like a great time to be a Bronco fan again, man.
No doubt. I got to say, I think Broncos Country, forgive my crassness, but I think we have a massive collective boner with how well Bo Nix played today. Jeremy, what were your thoughts on the game, on Bo Nix, all that?
Don't make me jump off the chat, David. No, man. I mean, here's the thing. Like, and this is exactly what we talked about on Wednesday. It was not even like this game meant it's confirmation, but the practice on Friday and what we heard coming out of that practice was the most important thing of this week. And that was the real confirmation because, Packer fans who go, oh, it's only a practice. Oh, this isn't our starters. Oh, whatever. But it's like, we've known what it looks like when you go up against a team and get destroyed in a joint practice. And I honestly think like you're already seeing the dividends of Sean Payton having those tough training camps. We just feel so much tougher. We feel so much more intense. Our third string, it doesn't even matter. I mean, like that as us signing on, the defense gave up 0 points in that. The defense almost like, I mean, they heard all that noise about like, oh, the defense didn't play good last week. Well, they didn't give up anything this week. And, all the stuff that we heard about how Bo Nix how's he going to look against the Packers number ones in practice? And then how are they going to look in the game as his first time starting? And, we joked, we were texting each other earlier watching the game. And one thing I said was, 1st and 20, no problem. Since when has that ever been? Like, it's been so long since like we get like a holding penalty and we're like, it's fine. We'll get it.
Yes.
And even I saw on X or whatever, Chase Daniel goes, man, it's just unbelievable how easy they move the ball with Bo Nix. And it's just, that's what it seems like. It just seems everybody's on board. Everybody's in rhythm. Everybody's on time. And, you saw Stidham come in and it was kind of like, here comes some weird penalties. Zach Wilson wasn't as sharp tonight as he was last week, but the offense it's just smooth. It just went smooth. And if it wasn't for him like 6 inches, if he was a little bit past the line, he would have had 2 touchdowns. And
right.
I mean, I think he still had 140 plus passer or QBR, so or passer rating. So
140.7.
140%. Yeah. Oh wait, give me the 0.7 for.
And you can say second string, whatever. If you're the guy, those are the types of numbers that you should be putting up. Our first string defense should be shutting out.
Well, I was listening to DNVR right before the game started, and I just wanted to hear what their pregame show was, and it was Hank and some other guy, and they're not usually Bo Nix fans, and they're even kind of going, well, all right, he is looking pretty good, and they go, is it too unrealistic to hope for another over 100 QB or quarterback rating? And they're like, that might be asking too much, and then like, boom, what happened?
That's a good argument to have.
Yeah, exactly.
Good problem to have.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, dude, you know me. I it's been over from day one. I knew this was gonna. I as soon as we drafted him, I was like so excited. This is the vision. But
you called it.
But this is ahead of schedule. I mean, this is what we were wanting to see by the end of the season. Some of this kind of stuff, and to be able to see it this quickly is so encouraging because, people are like, oh, his ceiling's not that high, or he's got a high floor, but not that. It's like, why not? Everybody's in rhythm. Everybody's moving. Like
throwing over the middle in rhythm. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Again, he's hitting Patrick. He's hitting Sutton deep. Everything's just moving. And it's funny. Did you? We were joking also about how Steve Levy in the third quarter he had Kliss on, and he was like, "What do you think? What is your prediction?" And Kliss goes, "I'm going to say 11-6." And Steve Levy's just like laughing and going, "Oh my gosh, 11-6, huh? Oh my god!" And I was like, "Oh, keep that receipt because you just don't know." And then he came back from a break and he brought it up again. He goes, "Wow, I'm all for 11-6, but I haven't heard anybody else say that." It's like, well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
It's a 3-game improvement. That's all it is, man. That's
exactly.
All. Did y'all have like a favorite throw today that really stuck out from Nix?
Do you have one, Marc, off the top of your head? I only watched it live. I didn't rewatch it.
Yeah,
he might be frozen.
Oh yeah, I guess.
There you go. There you go. Marc, you with us? Not sure.
Yeah, Marc you might need to refresh or log back in. Your stream on your channel will still stay.
Now he's dancing.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I loved that one when it was 1st and 20. We ran for 10, and then the next throw was that deep one to Sutton, and I was just like, boom, like that. It was just so clean. That one stood out. The one that was a penalty, I love that one, obviously. Like him scrambling, him feeling the pressure backside, him scrambling up. He tried to stay on side. He could feel where he was kind of at, and then seeing Williams flash open and then hitting him. And that's not going to go down in, on the stat sheet as a play, but that play showed you a lot.
Yes. It was funny too, even with that one, that was called back, that touchdown throw to Javonte Williams. He kind of threw like a Manning type duck that, sometimes he would be throwing those. It kind of reminded me of that. But I think my favorite throw of the day had to be that post route to Sutton. Right in between the safety and the cornerback right there. Down the field, 15, 20 yards. We just haven't had anybody in quite a while that could make that throw consistently. And you brought it up. That other one to maybe you had a couple that were over the middle to Tim Patrick and the touchdown catch. Like, he just looked great. Marc, are you with us?
I'm with. Can you guys hear me? My bad.
Yeah, you're good.
I was able to hear you, and then everything just started flashing. I was like,
"Damn,
this is usually Jeremy's job."
I know. I unplugged this time. I was like, let Marc do it.
Yeah, you guys touched on it. I love the throw to Sutton. It just had all the juice. It was perfect timing. Stepped into it. That was good to see. And then just like you had said too, the other one to Patrick. The ball was out. exactly when he was at the top of his route turning. Basically makes it almost an indefensible, type of a throw. So I like them all. Anytime he's backing up the throw, I like it now. It seems like
that Patrick one, the deeper one to Patrick, in the middle of the field.
Yes.
When they showed the replay of that, he threw it right before Patrick turned around, and it was like, you're not stopping that. If you guys are on the same page, he turns around, it's there, he's ready for it, and it's so different from Wilson, who's like, wait, up. Now it's too late. And you're just like, oh my God.
Well, and it was like that yesterday, man. I was watching that game with the Steelers, and I'm like I almost got irritated for them,
right?
Because it was like he took 3 sacks, I think, in the first quarter, and one of them I will say for sure wasn't his fault. He said hike and he was getting killed, but the other 2, it was like, man, what are you running into? And I was like, thank God. It was almost like I felt like it was a personal thing for a second. I had to remind myself that he wasn't our quarterback.
PTSD.
Yeah. No
yeah.
doubt.
I thought the exact same thing. I was like, he is in midseason form already, like in a not a good way. It was the exact same thing. Exactly the same Russell Wilson we saw. Him just holding on, like not feeling the pressure coming, not seeing people over the middle, having to like bounce it outside to hit somebody on. It's just like, oh, well, there it is. That's classic. And then they put Justin Fields in, and it's like, oh, this guy's more slippery, but missing a wide open guy. Yeah, same thing. And it was like, and everybody, but the Broncos have the worst quarterback room in the NFL, according to the national media.
Right. Nah, we looked elite today. What do we have? 3 touchdowns, 1 interception again on just kind of what is it with Jarrett Stidham, man, when he throws passes? Somehow they're just hitting off somebody else's hands. They're getting interceptions. But, I guess now that the game's concluded, we can kind of give a little bit of our quarterback assessment. And maybe we can get into some of the other guys that were highlighted to us, and also talk about maybe kind of negatively, some negative news, concerning news. Troy Franklin, I mean, I don't think we noticed him on the field really at all today, and had a goose egg on the stat sheet last week. That is a bit of a concern right now, a bit disappointing, but we can go through, talk about the quarterback room here really quick. You see Bo Nix.
That's how it ended. Okay.
Say what?
I just wanted to make sure that was what the score when we signed on. It just ended that way. Okay. I didn't know if there was more scoring.
Yeah, 27-2. So insane. Our defense really did pitch a shutout, and
that incredible. Too, I was telling you guys, I don't know if you guys caught it. It was the most egregious face mask. I said it right when it happened.
Oh, yes.
That looked so. And then they replayed it, and it was like, boom, like he pulled his whole head. And I was like, how do you miss that? You got one job to do.
That's definitely a scoregami. It won't count as one because it's preseason, but I can guarantee you no games ever ended 27-2.
Exactly.
Actually, curious.
So how would you guys structure the quarterback room right now after Bo Nix, QB1? What do you guys do?
Go ahead, Jim.
I'm going Stidham still at 2 and Wilson still at 3. I think Wilson needs the year just to the football rehab or I've heard, Cecil, hold on a second. I got a Bronco fan one on my lap here.
Oh,
nice. On for the occasion. No, I think Cecil Lammy called it football grad school instead of football rehab for Zach Wilson, which I like. I think he does need that year. I think he's looked definitely a lot better. I think they're going to – it really doesn't matter that much. I think they're keeping 3 either way. I think they like the fact that they got Zach Wilson. I think a little bit of Sean Payton is like, I'm going to make Nathaniel Hackett look bad again by reviving this guy that Hackett did nothing with. Because he took so much heat for just, I honestly don't think he meant to have that be public, what his comments were. But either way, he wasn't wrong. And I think they'll still keep Stidham number 2. They just didn't give Wilson any of the reps in practices, especially in that joint practice. They didn't really even let him go with the 2s. They kept him with the 3s. that tells me like, you know,
it's a long game.
Yeah, they're just kind of shelving him a little bit and just let him just get mentally like settled with going back to square one with everything. So I think that's what they'll do.
Yeah, I felt bad. We kind of gave him a little bit more of a New York Jets type of line tonight. Frank Crum, I feel like, really struggled there at right tackle. I think Palczewski had some rough moments as well. But one guy that has, I think, he's kind of proven me wrong a little bit. It's Matt Pert. I thought he did okay in pass protection. But, yeah, I'd like to see all these guys stay on the roster. Who are some other guys that really stood out to you in this game? I know that in our group text, we've talked a lot about Keidron Smith, Jonah Elliss. Marc, who was somebody for you that you really want to highlight?
Yeah, Keidron for sure. I had on my notes here. I also, Riley Moss, I thought it was interesting. He was with the starters. And it might be that they did the same thing with the quarterbacks. They did the corner, like they gave Mathis the start and Moss this time. But I think Moss looked really good. And another thing I thought was interesting was Calvin Throckmorton being the fill-in for Ben Powers right off the bat. I think that kind of solidifies his roster spot. I mean, it makes sense because they could have gone with Forsythe there. They could have gone with several other players really, because we got quite a bit of guys that can play on the interior. But I was surprised to see Throckmorton kind of put in there right off the bat. They could even put Palczewski because they put Palczewski in the guard later. So that was definitely interesting. I'll say this. I mean, and this isn't somebody that's obviously not going to make the team. He'll be here, but I've been kind of coined as like a Courtland Sutton hater lately, which I can understand why. But man, did that dude ball out tonight?
Yes.
He looked good. He looked good in the joint practices, from what I heard too. And did you guys see that block he laid on the dude on the Bo Nix scramble? Bo Nix had like that 10-yard scramble, I think, on 1st and 20.
Yeah.
And he straight pancaked this linebacker. He like locked on him, and then he put his hands on the ground, and they started kind of fighting. So I mean, I like that kind of intensity a lot. I thought St. Patrick looked really good too, but otherwise, today wasn't like somebody kind of popped out of nowhere. It was more just the guys that we were really excited about after game one. I think continued to look really good. With Ellis and we talked about Keidron Smith. So guys like that. So just a lot of guys looking the part and continuing to look really good for this team for sure. Obviously, Bo as well.
No doubt. I'll read a couple comments here, and then we'll get to you, Jeremy, if you got some names that you want to highlight. But Fravel Edits in here, friend of the show, Broncos Notre Dame fan. He said Bo Nix is him. Call him Bo Mahomes now. Buy your Super Bowl tickets now. We are so back, baby. I believe in this team. Nix is the best QB we've had since Peyton Manning. I've seen enough out Bo in the hall. Only thing I didn't like was not giving Estime more snaps. And Young, let's see, Robert Sells Lodo says,
my man Robert.
Yeah. He said, young, unknown talent on the Broncos and on this live. Wishing you all the success and growth. Hey,
I'll take it.
Appreciate it. Appreciate the kind words. Kodiak, another friend of the show. Please go subscribe to his channel as well. He said, really disappointed in Mims. 23 looks like an absolute disaster of a class by Payton to go along with 22. Estime's knee scope must have been more serious than we originally thought. Interesting. Mims and Franklin. Those were two guys that we didn't really see from today at all. I did think, we can talk about the running back room as well. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just like psyching myself out. I thought that Javonte looked a little bit more light on his feet last week compared to this week. Maybe that's just me being like too critical. I don't know.
You thought he looked better last week, you're saying?
Yeah.
See, I kind of felt the opposite. Yeah. I felt like he had a little more juice. I think the deal with Estime, Estime's made this team already. I think that they were focusing on if you look at it, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm 90% sure he probably played the most snaps of any of the backs tonight. Did awesome in pass pro. I think that they're really kind of molding him to be that third down back in that Samaje Perine role. So I thought he was fine, but the running back room is interesting, man. It's going to be a really fun and potentially scary thing to watch this year. We'll see. I'm looking forward to it though.
No doubt. And I still thought, man, I still think Jaleel McLaughlin, man, right now I feel like he looks like our best all-around back. That's how I feel about it. Yeah, we'll see what happens with Blake Watson. I'm still pulling for him to make the roster, but man, we'll see if they really do keep 4 running backs and a fullback on the 53. But Jeremy, I'll kick it back to you. Was there anybody else that you wanted to highlight on just who stood out in today's game?
I mean, just to double down what we talked about the other day. I mean, Ellis and Bonito. We're just killing it. Ellis, dude, that's the second forced turnover he's made in 2 games. Like that guy's, and then he made a inside move after he saw that the guy was rushing. His football IQ, you can just tell, is so high for a rookie. It's crazy. And Bonito, man, there was so many. He had like 2 or 3 where it was so close to blowing up the quarterback, and the quarterback just got it away. I mean, he was flying around that corner, and yeah, those 2 really stood out. You know who I liked late was Henningsen. He made a really nice job on that 4th down, on that 4th and 1, and they went for it, and he just went and blew it up. And that guy plays hard as well. I think our defensive line is besides quarterback, like we said, it's the one that we went from most in need of repair and scariest for going into the season of last year to Mike Kliss, and I, take for what it's worth, he said it's our strongest position group now on the team. And it's like, wow, you give Zach Allen another year in the system. You got Franklin Myers, you got Malcolm Roach, and then you got Jones and Henningsen, and
we got a Wazirike back. We didn't have him last year.
And that's the thing too. I was expecting like nothing out of a Wazirike. I was like, okay, maybe they'll just like kind of shelve him for a year, just like to get his feet back. And apparently he's come in like killing it.
Yeah.
And then the other person that nobody's talking about is in practice, I guess Thomas Incoom is just crushing every single day. Like he's averaged a sack a day all training camp. And it's just like, I don't know, man. That's I was telling my wife this, and she always gives me a hard time about like, oh, you're so positive every year in that preseason. And then I'm like, all right, well, I'm optimistic. How about that? But I've never seen a year where I felt this good about a season going into it, and the national media telling everybody how bad we're about to be.
It's very strange, isn't it?
It is so weird. Usually it's the opposite. Usually I'm like, I don't know. If everything goes good, maybe we'll be right. And everybody else is like, look at the talent they have. It's insane. They got KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy. And it's like this year, it's like, oh, they don't have anybody. And it's like, well, why do we look so good then? Why are we playing so hard? Why is everything? It feels like, man, Sean Payton, the culture is just completely changed at this point. Everybody's even saying compared to last year, our culture is like a lot better. And last year was way better than 2 years ago. So it's like,
they still talk about us like we're that 5-win Nathaniel Hackett led team, man. They really do. We were an average football team last year.
I know.
At 8-9, I don't understand how. Again, we're still talked about one of the worst rosters in football, and it would have been nice to see us play the first stringers of the Packers, but we did what our first units did is exactly what you would expect and want to see out of a good football team that's going up against second stringers.
Yep.
I definitely prefer it that way.
And again, the practice is the part that tells that story. So like we can talk about this game and second stringers and yada yada, and we have it at home and blah blah blah. But when like they were going to give us their best shot and we were going to give them their best shot in practice, what happened? We it was not like it's been. We've seen other years where the opposite has happened, and
The
it really
Niners.
is yes. Oh my gosh, what a sobering! It's like we're not going to have music at practice because we're going to be focused and we're going to be serious, and then we come in and just get worked by this team who's just like rallying around and going all crazy. And I was like, well, that didn't matter.
Yeah.
But I mean, by all accounts, even Packers fans in the seats or whatever on the hill, they were all like, because it was hard because you had two different fields to watch at the same time, so it's kind of like which one did you watch and what did you see? But everybody was like, yeah, we dominated that, especially in the end, especially the reps that mattered, the 2-minute drills and the drives. Like I think they got 1 yard. I think Jordan Love got 1 yard in 4 plays on the drive, and then they did it again. They're like, run it back because that didn't really count because we got to do it again. And again, it was like 4 and out again. And the Broncos were like 5 for 5, 3 with Bo Nix, 1 with Stidham, and 1 with Wilson. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think to talk a little bit about the previous comment, we talked about the draft class and Mims and everything. I think Broncos Country will quickly love Marvin Mims when they see what he's going to do with these new kickoff rules, and when he's actually the one returning it, and he takes a couple of them to the house, because he's elite. I mean, he's elite in that area, and I think as a gadget player, I'm not overly worried about Mims. I think our draft class last year was kind of underrated. I mean, especially if Riley Moss ends up being the starter and Riley Moss ends up playing good. Then those top 2 picks, you can make the argument, were solid. JL Skinner, who knows? You hear good things about him in practice.
I thought he had a good game today, despite the penalty.
Yep.
Yeah, he was better. He's got all the talent in the world. Alex Forsythe, he was competing for the center job. He's gonna be a depth player and somebody that could still in the future make the team. So I don't think. And then Drew Sanders, the injury was really unfortunate for him. I would have been interested to see him kind of in year 2 of development. And then the draft class the year before, right? Like Nick Bonito looks like he's going to be a certified baller. Like, watch out! I'm so confident that Nick Bonito he's going to lead the team in sacks again. I think he's going to be an absolute stud. Greg Dulcich, if he's happy, we know what he can do.
Oh, let's talk about that. He looked great again today. Greg Dulcich staying healthy. Take it away, Marc. Take it away.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit in the group chat. Like, it seems like every time he gets the ball, he's getting demolished. Like the poor guy. It's like, but maybe we're just overly worried about it. But it's something that we knew. The guy has Pro Bowl type of talent. He's smooth. He's aggressive. He's fast. He catches everything. I don't remember Greg Dulcich ever dropping a ball, to be honest with you. And he probably will, next time he gets the ball thrown to him that I said it. But he's got all the talent. That was never the question with him. It was always the injuries. Thankfully, he's been able to string along a full training camp. He's looked good. He's played in games. He can be a real factor in this offense for sure. And Lucas Kroll, same kind of thing. I mean, the guy just looks different. Like, you can just see it. Like, even if you don't watch football, you can see that those guys have a different element to their game from a size and athleticism standpoint. So, I mean, he looks good. Just like we talked about Uzurike. So when you really look at the past draft classes, a lot of them are starting to really come to fruition now. And in my opinion, that's fine, especially not having a first round pick for a couple weeks. But yeah, let me say, guys, I mean, if Greg Dulcich can be healthy for 17 games or even 14 out of 17 games, this offense is going to be taken to a completely different level that I don't think we could even imagine. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that, man. And I think we're ready to roll with him. I love it.
This is the year that I'm just like, screw it. I'm going to get rid of all my superstitious behavior because, again, I'm like, I never buy a jersey since Payton because the quarterback's got to prove it. But I'm like, no, I'm just going to go ahead and buy it. I'm going to go ahead and talk about every single day that Greg Dulcich is healthy. And what do you know? We're getting great play out of both of those guys.
Yeah.
And let's talk about McMillan, too. D-Rock brought him up. Oh, go ahead.
For 1 second on Dulcich. The thing, if we remember, about Dulcich is he was having the hamstring issues. And remember, like in the offseason, they said they identified the way that he was walking or the way that he ran.
His gait.
There's something about his gait that was like leading to this, and they needed to work with him on that. So far, so good with that. I mean, the first thing Sean Payton did was bring in, what was his name? It's Bo something.
Bo Lowry.
Is it Lowry? Okay.
I think so.
And
I don't know why that sounds right. Maybe it's not.
I can't remember. That sounds
it is
like
Bo Lowry, yeah.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
So they brought him in, and then all of a sudden, we've had the worst run with injuries for years leading up to that, and then all of a sudden we got healthy, and they're like, "Well, what's the chances that's going to happen?" And who knows? I mean, like the Quinn Bailey type of injuries, those things happen. There's nothing you can do about that. But like it was the soft tissue stuff over and over and over again. It was like the problem, and Dulcich, if that's what happened, if they identified the problem, it could be a whole new thing with him. And what's so nice about Dulcich in these two games, like besides the first throw of Bo Nix's start last week, he really hasn't been the guy that Bo's thrown to. It's been more of Stidham with Dulcich.
Yeah. Been a lot of Kroll.
It's been more Kroll. So like you get those two on, get some chemistry going. We haven't even really seen Bo Nix with Dulcich yet. So, man, soft hands, fast feet, and silky hair, man. That guy is.
Yeah, he's smooth. He's really smooth though. He really is. I mean, he's just good. Like I don't know how else to put it. Like
it's the hips. You see how Kroll is super athletic, but you see how sometimes him catching it and turning around and then getting hit, and he's kind of awkward and kind of falling weird. And Dulcich is awkward getting hit too. But like, man, Dulcich catches and flips so fast that you're just like, oh shoot! Like you catch him with enough, like, and the fact that's what I'm thinking is like Bo hits guys as they're turning around, and he has plenty of time. Like that talking
about the 3rd and 18.
That 3rd and 18 catch,
yeah.
He evaded that guy by they giving him the old like Olay, almost like Spanish bullfighter style, stepping out of that hit that was coming his way, and ended up getting the first down. And I would prefer him not to dive with his head personally. He doesn't need to, but that was that just shows you Greg Dulcich right there, that athleticism, because man, he just flips so fast.
Yeah, he's good, man. I might have a man crush. I think, I don't know.
Yeah, I've opened my heart again. I've
like
opened my heart. I'm ready. I'm ready to be hurt again. I'm starting to believe. It's a great feeling. But secondary, I'm starting to believe again. Damari Mathis did what he should have done today. I thought he had a pretty good game. You brought up Riley Moss already. D-Rock brought up McMillan, who had a fantastic pass breakup. I know some fans, probably Packers fans, would be mad at the little jersey pull, but I didn't think that should have been called.
Yeah,
that was fine, man. He got the hand in there, looked textbook. I'm feeling good about where this secondary is at. Yeah. How do you guys feel?
This might be a controversial take, but I think McMillan is. I think Jaquan's probably the second best player on our defense.
Oh, second best player on the defense?
No. Yeah, I think so. I mean, the guy, definitely in the secondary.
Okay, I'll give you a second.
The guy is an absolute stud. He's just a playmaker. He's just somebody that makes plays. I mean, I love the dude. And you can make the argument because he's not very well known. He does play at the slot position, so it's not like he's in there every single play. But man, oh man, he reminds me so much of Chris Harris.
Yes.
And then has some Aqib Talib to him just from his antics. I like the dude. I love McMillan, so I'm not surprised to see him ball out.
I was just about to say the same thing about the Chris Harris comp. We talked about that the other day, and all three of the guys, Moss, Mathis, and McMillan. Is it McMillan? Like I've heard, like we have to settle.
I think it's McMillan because it ends in an IAN. But
I always say McMillan.
McMillan sounds better.
I think it's McMillan.
But McMillan is flashy.
Well, McMillan would be spelt with an I-O-N, right? McMillian is spelled. I don't know. I think it's McMillan. But either way, all three of those guys are so feisty the way that Chris Harris was. They're just like, and I don't remember who it was. I I listened so much over the last few days because I wanted to hear every single take on like the joint practice and stuff. But somebody said every single thing. It might have been Kay Adams with Sean Payton. I'm not remember, but they basically said they make everything difficult. They make you earn everything. Like every pass that's completed was like tough.
They're good throws.
Exactly what I want. Because, if you're going to beat us, you're going to have to like be on top of it. Nothing sloppy, nothing easy. That's the way we want to play. And all three of those guys really did that. Drain again flashed again. He had a really nice play.
Yeah, he's really good too. We're gonna have a hell of a test against Seattle though, man. Against Metcalf and Jackson Smith and Jigba and Tyler Lockett. Even though Geno Smith is whatever, that's a hell of a receiver. That's a hell of a receiver tandem. So, yeah, we're gonna get tested. Whoever's the starting corner, it's gonna be a test week 1 for sure. There,
yeah, they got some tight ends there, and of course Kenneth Walker. It's going to see. I feel like we're gonna know very quickly, how much better this team is from last year. I forget like what you guys got them finishing at right now. I guess on my official prediction or whatever, I just have us at a 1-game improvement, 9-8, but that's 2 under what Mike Kliss has now. But I don't know if he's normally like over or under what the Broncos do. But I just had us win 5-6 games last year, so I'm feeling much better about where we're at.
I was at 10-7. I was at 10-7, and I always thought it could be anywhere. Every season it seems to be like it could be 8-12, like so easily. Yeah. Like it always comes down to like crunch moments. I just like the way that like our team feels mentally tough. They just feel like the big moments, we're just handling them really, really well. I know it's preseason, but it's like that practice was a big indicator for me. On the third downs, we're like on defense, we're sharp on third down. On offense, we're sharp on third down. And those are the parts where like that's what matters. And if we can be a mentally tough team that continues on through the season, and man, if we just we have an opportunity to really like come out of the gates. If we can get Seattle and then start to roll, like
Seattle, Pittsburgh. What's week 3? I can't remember.
Because okay. So we look. It's Geno Smith in Seattle. Obviously, really hard place to play. But I honestly think we could shock people, and people don't. Seattle doesn't know what to really expect that much because like everything, it's a rookie quarterback who they haven't seen, and I guess you can scout like Oregon tape or whatever, but they haven't seen it actually, and Sean Payton's going to have something special week 1 dialed up. So he's been thinking about this offseason the whole
Troy Franklin.
Yeah, that's what we've been waiting for. That's what we've been waiting for. He's just trolling the whole league right now.
Could you imagine he goes off for like 10 catches, 200 yards?
Dude.
Oh, it's interesting. I mean, Seattle's an unknown team too. They got first year head coach. Their offensive coordinator actually was the offensive coordinator at University of Washington. So he should know Bo pretty well.
Oh, that's right.
You're right. That guy should.
Yeah. But it'll be I got him a 9-8 too, David. And I think that I'll stick with it now, as it stands. I just think that the Broncos are going to be one of those teams that they're going to be in every game.
Yes.
I know Cecil Lammey actually talked about this too a couple of days ago. I really do think they're gonna be competitive and at least have a chance to win every game. And you kind of split it up half, and 9-8. It could be it could be 7-10. It could be 10-7 one way. But I think the most important thing, and I've said it all along, and nothing changes, is that you just want to. This year is to build, develop, and ensure that you got your franchise guy moving forward, because then the growth happens really quickly. If we go 9-8 and we took $88 million cap hit with Russ and all that, not being able to go after free agency a lot and still, finish 9-8, that's a huge win.
Then we can go get Brandon Ayuk next year, right? And then
Hell yeah.
then we'll just be rolling. But Marc, I wanted to bring this up real quick because we haven't gotten to this yet. I know that you're kind of coming up with kind of the back end of who's making this 53. Are there some names on the back end of this roster that you wanted to talk about after today's game?
I think just we talked about it. We touched on it a little bit. Is Keidron Smith?
Yes.
I'm really intrigued by the guy. I mean, listen, the interception last week, like anybody, I feel like anybody really could have made it. Let's be honest. But aside from that, he looked solid. He doesn't look like he's out of place. And today's pick was beautiful. Today, undercutting the route. He's getting a lot of playing time. He's really playing with the twos. So the team looks. The coaching staff seems to like him. He's really taking advantage of these opportunities with Brandon Jones out. So I think. And he, by all accounts, seems like he's a good special teams player. So I think I have him as one of the safeties to make the team. And Dondrea Tillman is somebody at the back end of the roster. I was kind of going back and forth. The guy just seems. I mean, he signed a 3-year deal with us, but there wasn't really anything guaranteed. Not much in there, but he just seems like every time he's on the field, he's making plays. And today he had a great TFL. He's constantly pressuring the quarterback. I like to do it a lot, and I think he's somebody that ultimately makes a team too.
Me too. I want Dondrea Tillman on this team. Jeremy, any other names for you on the back end of the roster that you feel like they did themselves some favors this week?
Let's see. I honestly think I think it's kind of set. We're joking, unfortunately, but Jonas Griffin looks like he's on schedule to be getting injured again. I don't know what happened with that. Hopefully he's all right.
He was good. He came back.
He's all right? Okay, good.
Yeah, we saw him make a tackle afterwards.
He went like this, so I'm like,
yeah, he came back and played like a whole quarter, I think. She just kept rolling him out there.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, they did that with Ellis too. I was like, we know enough. Like, just leave him. Like, keep him out. But I don't know. I kind of feel like the rosters. I feel like it's pretty set. It's almost like what receivers are going to get cut. Yeah, we talked about it, but we didn't make our picks. If we go, if there's a 7th receiver kept, which one are you keeping?
Like between like Bandy, Brandon Johnson, Jalen Virgil, Lil Jordan Humphrey, like those guys?
Yes. Because I think it's pretty set. Sutton's safe, Reynolds safe, Mims safe, hopefully Franklin's safe, and then Patrick's safe. So, and then who am I missing?
Franklin? Bailey. You talked about Franklin?
Yeah, I said Franklin.
And Devon Bailey?
And Bailey safe,
Bailey,
yeah.
That's right.
That's the 6th. So if you're keeping 7, who you keeping?
I go with Lil Jordan.
Yeah, for sure. I have Lil Jordan making the team. I have Troy Franklin. We talked about, I think right before you got on, Jeremy.
Let's summarize for the viewers too.
Yeah. I think Troy Franklin is one of those players that the Broncos are gonna probably try an IR. And then just redshirt him the whole year. They'll have to carry him on the 53 on official roster day, and then once waivers clear, they'll IR him, and then they'll probably bring up Lil Jordan. I think they did that last year because they could just terminate Lil Jordan's contract. He'll become a free agent, and they'll have a mutual understanding that he'll come back and make the 53. Just because he plays such a specific role, and Payton seems to love him. So I think it's going to be 6, but I got it as Sutton, Patrick, Reynolds, Mims, Lil Jordan, and Bailey as the 6.
With
Franklin
on
IR.
With Franklin on IR, and I think if they kept the 7th, which could happen, that's tough, man, because I feel like they like Bandy a lot. I think they like Bandy's ability to for special teams, but I think and I want for it to be Brandon Johnson because that's just always been my guy.
Well, and we also didn't see. So Vele didn't register a catch today.
He didn't play.
I'm trying to remember.
He didn't play.
Okay, he didn't play. Did David Sills play, or was he hurt?
He did. He didn't do much.
I think I saw him, but I don't think he did much.
David Sills had nothing. Yeah, he wasn't on the stat sheet.
Yeah, he didn't get on the stat sheet, but yeah, I don't like this talk about the idea of cutting him. I don't think you cut 4th round picks unless something is just insanely wrong, but you should have known all about him doing all the Bo Nix scouting. So again, just like we highlighted on Wednesday, was that you, Jeremy, that pointed out that he just turned 21 years old earlier this year?
Yeah, February.
Like, you got to give him time. I'm going to be pissed off if we cut a guy that we traded up for that was labeled as a guy that wasn't going to be a day one starter in the NFL, which was one of the reasons why he fell, because he had a lot of stuff that he needed to work on. I don't like that narrative coming out of here sometimes in the Denver media about, man, I think he just might get cut. Man,
he's too high of a name to try to slip through on the practice squad, even if he wanted to. So, like, I just think you have to. And, you know, it was interesting. Like, you know, they did like the players to watch before the game of like, oh, you know, I think it was Jonah Elliss and somebody else. And then it was Troy Franklin. And you're like, man, it is interesting. But I don't feel like they even targeted him. And so it's kind of like, oh, all right, well, here's the thing. You know, there was a comment earlier about Mims and all that. And Sean Payton's really been talking about how he loves the tall receivers and that, you know, the Suttons and the Patricks and the Baileys and the little Jordan Humphreys and those kind of the guys. But the NFL is all about adjustments. And once you start to like make that adjustment, defenses start making that adjustment, that's when you get the Mims deep. That's when you get like the crossers from somebody really fast. And even though it was one play last week, that touchdown to Mims it shows you exactly how explosive and how valuable having a guy like that. If you're having Patrick do that same play, it's maybe going to be it, but like it's so different than having Mims do it.
Sutton's catching it one-handed, diving out there or something like that. He's not he's not getting out there that quick.
Right. I mean, you need it to be it needed to be that fast from your receiver and from Bo. And I love having the tall receivers and then being able to box people out, and it's easy to see them. They're big targets, all that kind of thing. But you do need those underneath guys to really be explosive. The McMillans or the McLaughlins and like those speed guys, because you're going to wear teams down. And then all of a sudden you need the speed guy just to like rip it open. Like that's kind of and I think Franklin can be that. It's just, again, you just can't expect like 21-year-old wide receivers who come into the league and have like this crazy immense offense to be able just to like, Bo Nix is a freak. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. It's like, Bo Nix is unbelievable. But again, you know, we've all talked about, oh, he's old and all this stuff. And Vele, same thing. But these guys are like super mature. Franklin's going to take time. Don't give up on him. He's going to, it's, you know, if this is happening in year 2 or year 3, fine. Year 3. But like, Emmanuel Sanders was like not Emmanuel Sanders for a long time in his career. It took a while. And it's just Franklin's slight, and he's going to need to get an NFL body going too. And so it's just, I think they're going to keep.
He needs to get bigger hands too, little baby hands. He's got baby hands also.
Franklin has baby hands too.
Got baby hands.
Interesting.
I need to look at his hand size. Do you know it, Marc?
I made a video. We were talking about hand sizes with Damari Mathis, and I'm like looking at Franklin, like, what the hell's going on? Let's go back and look at like some notes and stuff that I had. And there was actually an interesting article that I put in that video too, talking about the correlation between hand size and receivers. And it's actually pretty damn crazy. Like, they took 10 years of data, and all of the receivers that like hand size were under a certain threshold and where they were drafted. And it's like 90% of them ended up being a bust. It was really? Pretty nuts. Wow. But yeah, he's got a 8 3/4 inch hands.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
anything
and like I said, it doesn't mean that like oh, he can't play.
Is Jared Goff size hands? Is that what you're saying? I mean,
no, Jared Goff's hands are bigger.
Oh, that's right. He has 9-inch hands.
He's got Kenny Pickett hands.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett's 8.5, I think. something like that.
But the good news is that at least he wears 2 gloves like Pickett already. But like I said, I don't think I don't look too much into that. But it was just a side comment. But
yeah,
I don't think he's getting. There's no way he's going to get cut.
Yeah.
I just think they're either going to carry him and hope it clicks, or they're going to IR him and give him a redshirt year, which I think is really likely.
I think it's interesting too that to circle back to your comment, Jeremy, about kind of the specialists that we have in the wide receiver room. Yeah, and Marc too, with I guess getting to fantasy. I don't know if there's really a lot of Broncos that you want to have on this team in terms of fantasy stuff, because a lot of the reason why they're being brought in here is to fulfill, 1 or 2 specific roles. Outside of maybe just a couple core guys, I think, Jeremy, like you said, it's going to change game to game on, guys that are making impacts on the offense. That's what we saw in New Orleans too. Drew Brees, Kamara, or like Drew Brees and Mark Ingram or Reggie Bush, and then maybe a wide receiver, Colston and Jimmy Graham, and then it's just a bunch of guys who they can kind of play those roles with. But yeah, Marc, is there anybody that you're really buying for fantasy on this team that you're that you're expecting to have a big role? I guess for me it would just be Sutton.
Greg Dulcich, baby.
Yes,
that is a sleeper at tight end. If he's healthy, pick him up in the 13th round before you draft your kicker. But no, we're not gonna be a team, in my opinion, that's gonna be really fun for fantasy. Which I don't care, because I don't like to draft Bronco players anyways, because then you're just rooting for certain guys to score. I just want everybody to score, so I don't think so. I think if anybody, I mean, Sutton's probably going to be the best for fantasy for sure overall.
Yeah.
If you got a legacy league, Bo Nix.
Yes.
Bo Nix.
Oh yeah.
Got him on my dynasty teams.
Dynasty.
Yeah. If you're doing a dynasty, for sure, he's somebody that could be on there, no doubt about it.
He's one of those people that, you're right about fantasy as far as he just finds the open person. He's not one of those people that's like has a Jamar Chase and I gotta find my exact guy where no matter where he is, I'm gonna throw it to that one guy every time. He's just like, I'm gonna take the open guy. And Sean Payton schemes a guy open and it's supposed to go there. Like, so it's not like I have to just get, like you made the comment about Brandon Ayuk and all that. And almost doesn't make sense in my opinion to sometimes have this super stud guy with this type of an offense, because you don't need to have the guy where it's just like, okay, throw it to him. And Sutton is a guy that if the chips are all down and you have to just throw one up, he's proven over and over he can do that.
Yes.
And same with Patrick.
Patrick too, when he was healthy, for sure. I mean, he was. I think that's why they like the tall guys, because it seems like the DBs are getting smaller, and so Sean Payton's like, okay, instead of worrying about speed, I'm gonna beat you with size. And Kay Adams, did you see that thing she did with Sean Payton, where I guess one of his favorite TV shows is The Bear, and that's a show about cooking, and they call each other chefs and all that kind of stuff. So she did a yes chef or no chef, asking like a quick questions, and she said that size for receivers is more important than speed, and he said yes chef.
Wow.
So that's his words. And so that tells you, and he's gone on about this story about how when he was on the Giants and he saw the 49ers walk out on the field, and Jerry Rice, and he keeps saying John Taylor, which I'm sorry, but John Taylor did not play in 1997. But I'm not going to correct you, Sean Payton. But the idea still stands. T.O. was on that team. And I think it's just an imposing getting off like the bus kind of a idea of just like you're going up against 5'10", 6 foot DBs, and you got a bunch of 6'4", 6'5" guys, and it's just like, all right, well, we'll beat you that way. That's fine. We could do that. And then when you're hunkering down on those guys, you got Mims over the top, and you got Troy Franklin. So I think that's the plan. But that was an interesting comment from Sean Payton directly.
Very.
That size is more important than speed, because that is definitely not the thought across the NFL.
Separation.
Yeah.
I guess if you can scheme the separation, makes things a little bit easier.
The separation is vertical and not horizontal, apparently, for him.
Well, I think what's interesting too about that comment, I mean, because you saw it a lot last year, right? Like last year, we would consistently have Lil Jordan Humphrey kind of get elevated for game day because he has that role of like, he's another big physical receiver, and he's really was the only receiver outside of Sutton that was capable of blocking in the run game, which I think made us even more predictable because you kind of knew when Lil Jordan was in, we're most likely, for the most part, we were going to run the ball. So he didn't have much of an impact anywhere else. I think that kind of makes him expendable too, because now we have Josh Reynolds, who's a really good run blocker, and we have Tim Patrick, obviously, too. And so that helps with us being able to be a lot more versatile. So those are kind of just some other examples of where I think this roster being built in Sean Payton's vision makes a lot of sense. And as I really think about it, kind of makes me feel like, well, Jordan Humphrey's not going to make this team. But yeah, it's kind of just like that, because like you're adding two, they added two big physical receivers, obviously getting Patrick back, and then signing Reynolds, who is one of the best run blocking receivers in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There was a channel I watched yesterday, or the day before, and I don't remember. I'm sorry for the person, I forgot their name, but it's a YouTube channel. It's a Seattle Seahawks fan, and he just breaks down tape. So he was pre-scouting Bo Nix for week one, and it was great. Like, this guy was like, I really enjoyed his video. It was almost an hour long, and he was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea Bo Nix is like legit. He's for real. But what was he saying? Oh, he was saying about Josh Reynolds on the Lions last year. He said there were so many times when he was watching the Lions that he was just like, it just kept being Reynolds and Reynolds again, Reynolds again. That's one of those underrated signings that, you only hear about like the top 5 guys that move teams. And, we've been talking about Ayuk forever and all this, but it's like, it's the Reynolds moves, that those middle money moves that end up being huge for a team.
Just like Emmanuel Sanders kind of became a starter or whatever the last year of the rookie deal, has kind of earned their stripes, worked their way up from the bottom of the depth chart. And like he was playing over a guy that I think they might have even traded up for, drafted very highly in Jameson Williams. He was playing over him.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those people that like, it gets stuck in people's heads so many times where if somebody's drafted in the back end of the draft, they just, for the rest of their career, they're kind of like, oh yeah, and that guy. Oh yeah, and that guy. But then they're more productive than the first round picks that end up being like, okay.
Yes.
And then those first round picks end up still getting these big contracts because of like, oh, but still we're waiting for it. And it's these guys that who end up, he like Reynolds earned a bigger contract, but like, because he's not the name, he
still
ends up
so cheap.
Yeah. It ends up being, and I always find it so fascinating, especially with people like Sean Payton, because those are the people that really are so detail oriented. So if they go after somebody, I'm like, oh, they've been watching that person. That was like, so we haven't seen it because he's been hurt, but like he did that with 2 players in this offseason, Brandon Jones, the safety, and Josh Reynolds. Those are the 2 people that Sean Payton identified and he wanted. And you're like, okay, why? Because we didn't have a lot of money to spend. Money was at a premium.
Oh.
If we were taking a $53 million cap hit, then you kind of need to stretch those dollars. But he wanted those 2 guys. In the Jones one, you're like, okay, that makes sense. You're just letting Simmons walk. You're saving the money on Simmons, and then you're going to pay somebody who you think is adequate for half of that price. But then Simmons sat, and then didn't end up making that much more than we paid Jones. So like that just goes to show you, like, that's interesting to me that he wanted that person so bad, and Reynolds. And he felt like there was something missing, and maybe it was Patrick. He just didn't know what was going to happen coming off that injury again, if he could trust it. But And we didn't really see that much from Reynolds in this preseason. So, I mean, there's still a lot more to see from him going forward.
I'm just glad, man, we got our rookie quarterback with a handful of veteran weapons now. And I know you want to kind of thread that needle of developing talent, but you also want to give your rookie quarterback the best shot at being successful, being that guy from the get-go. And yeah, I love the Josh Reynolds signing. Back to Bo Nix though, real quick.
Yeah.
I gotta say, it's so justifying. And seeing his performances in preseason and in comparison to the other guys that were drafted ahead of him, again, to me, it's just hard for me to understand why there was so much knock on Bo Nix with his Auburn tape when no one ever even talks about how bad Jane Daniels was at ASU. Both of them end up Heisman finalists. Of course, Jane Daniels wins the Heisman, but Jane Daniels had a good week this week. But I just feel with what you're seeing, I don't see how he doesn't finish as a top 3 quarterback in this class. I think some of the other guys coming in there, they might have higher perceived ceilings, but I think that they just have so much more, work to do before they're realizing this gauged potential, such as Drake May. It was a bummer to see McCarthy get hurt because I actually thought he looked pretty good outside of that bad interception that he threw. I thought he looked pretty good, but again, I think I just find it funny, man, that I think Jane Daniels, Bo Nix, even though they played in some different systems in Auburn and LSU, they have a lot of similarities, but it just seemed like there was only, one of those negative narratives was it was only used with Nix and not Daniels. And I just find it funny how both of them seem to be doing very well. And they both got drafted into situations in which, again, Sean Payton's the head coach, but Cliff Kingsbury, I think will run a lot of stuff pretty similar to what Jane Daniels is comfortable with. And we'll see how it goes. But I think it's a good fit. And I think that's the biggest thing when we're talking about rookie quarterback success trajectory is, are they in a place that fits?
Me, it was like Penix was the exact same way. Penix was a 5-year starter, and people just, he's awesome. He's got an amazing arm. Yeah, he had an injury history, but other than that, you're speaking exactly my language. Yeah. I was beating my head against the wall for months. I'd be like, I don't understand what these people don't see about Bo Nix. Like, you're holding it against him just because it was the fact that he was a known quantity for so long that it's like, oh, he's old news. And they wrote the book on him too early. And it's like, why? When Herbert goes when he struggles and they don't win games, they go, oh yeah, but he's great, but the team wasn't good. But when Bo Nix in Auburn, it has to play hero ball every single week, they don't just go, man, that was an amazing effort that guy just gave. They go, nah, he sucks. He's not good.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I think front offices, they just fall in love with the upside. They fall in love with the arm talent. I think Oregon's kind of developed itself a bad reputation too, in a way, but they just love the arm talent. I mean, there was a comment in the chat about Caleb Williams, right? And people just gush over, and he's looked great, which is surprised me a little bit, but he's it's funny because they just lose their mind because NFL coaches always feel like, oh, if I can get my hands on him, I'll bring the most out of them. And it's like, if you look at the data, it's just not true.
Yeah.
It's not true at all. People don't like the safe, productive draft picks early in the draft, at least, that, and that they feel like have a limited ceiling, which is wild to me. But it's funny because it even continues now, right? Like Bo Nix has been getting a lot of love from the national media, but I watched the Bears game yesterday, and I was just so blown away. And there's no lack of better words than the dick riding that happened with him. Like, he'd make a throw and he had a 7-yard touchdown run or whatever, and they're like, that was the most unbelievable run ever. It's like, guys, I get it. Like, he's looked good, but I mean, good Lord, seriously, it's not that big of a deal, Just I try to temper all the expectations too. Like when you see Bo Nix, make a nice throw, you're like, all right, it's good to see. It's in rhythm. It looks like an NFL team, but it's not like you're sitting there like, I've never seen anything like it. It's just all about clicks. It's about what gets people going. that throw that he had to Adunze on the sidelines on the run was wild. But outside of that, everything else was like just average to below average football, and they were treating it like I've never seen anything like it. It's actually kind of wild.
If Bo Nix made that exact same play, you know what they're saying? That was a great play, but you can't live like that.
You can't live
off
like that. Yeah.
You got to have better footwork.
It's all about the narrative. And I think because, so many analysts were banking on Caleb being this generational talent. So it's almost like it's justifying what they had guessed. Whereas if Bo Nix made something like that, they'd be like, oh, maybe we were wrong on him, so we won't talk about it. And then it happens all the time across the league with rookies, with vets, with whatever. It's a constant. But I mean, it's I'm at the point now where it's like I don't really care what's happened. I'm just looking forward to watching this pan out, man. I think it's working out great.
No doubt.
We're at the end of training camp, right? We went through all the training camp. We've gone through 2 preseason games. We've gone through a joint practice. Can we officially put the Bo Nix's arm strength conversation to bed? Because I was saying it the whole time beforehand. I go, you guys are wrong. Mike Sanford was on with is he on with Cecil and them as well, or is he on with? I don't remember.
He's on altitude.
Okay, yeah, he's on altitude.
I think he's on with D-Mac and Tyler.
Yeah, with D-Mac. Okay. I got into it on Twitter with him. He was like, "Oh, Bo Nix's arm strength is, question." And I called him a hater, and he goes, "Oh no, I'm not. Like, there's no hate at all." And I go, "All right, maybe not a hater. I'll take your word for it. Just wrong. I'll just go with wrong."
He kicked our ass, though. He kicked your ass, Mike Sanford. Yeah.
and so he goes, "I'll take that." But it's like everything we've seen with Bo Nix so far is arm strength the problem. I mean, give me a break. Like
arm strength is such an irrelevant measuring tool for a successful quarterback. It blows my mind. The 2 greatest quarterbacks to ever walk planet Earth, Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, were not good because they had strong arms.
And Drew Brees, and Javonte.
And it's crazy because even Patrick Mahomes, who has a cannon, obviously, he's not good because he has a cannon.
Right.
Like that's not why he's good.
Right.
So it's I'll never understand it. It blows my mind. Drew Brees never had a strong arm. And I mean even John Elway, it was at a time where it was like blew everybody's mind away, but he was great because of a lot of other aspects of his game. It's just an additional kind of tool in his tool belt. Joe Burrow's arm isn't crazy elite.
Nope.
Is Lamar Jackson he's not throwing a ton of bombs? Like I feel like he does a lot of the stuff that like on that Mims touchdown, like I feel like he could throw that really well, last week or that we saw, but he doesn't have a cannon either.
You know what I honestly think it comes down to? As men watching other men do things, it comes down to how impressive is I couldn't do that. As a man, I can't throw the ball 70 yards. Oh my gosh, that's unbelievable. Watching LeBron James or Michael Jordan jump from the free throw line, oh my gosh, that's unbelievable. I can't do that. Seeing a guy run that fast, Lamar Jackson, oh my gosh, I can't do that. When you're seeing Peyton Manning operate an offense, you don't know how he's doing it. It's not like so quantifiable of somebody running really fast or throwing really far, so you don't appreciate it in the same exact way.
Yes.
Same with Bo Nix. And it's like, you're not seeing all the little things that he just did. And so therefore you just go, yeah, but the things that I can quantify aren't that impressive. So I'm just going to lower it down. And it's like, that just drives me so crazy. It's like, you don't luck into 45 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. You don't, that's not impossible to do. And with Peyton Manning operating, same thing.
Yeah, but Brock Purdy last year was led the league in average depth of target behind Josh Allen. And he has arguably the weakest arm in the entire NFL.
And you know what's crazy?
Wow. If it's on time, it works. It does not matter.
And you know what's crazy about that? He's in the Super Bowl. He barely missed out on the Super Bowl the year before, was in the Super Bowl last year, was an MVP candidate. And who's the highest paid quarterback in the NFL? Jordan Love, who had 4 or 5 good games at the end of the year. And it's because they see him throw some balls and they go, oh my gosh, maybe he's got it. We got to pay this guy. If you gave Brock Purdy that exact same contract, people would have complained about it. People would have said, oh my gosh, they overpaid. It's like he just took him to the Super Bowl almost twice. And like that just goes to show you right there, like the bias. You just always Jeff George, how many chances back in the day? I'm dating myself that way back. But like how many people have gotten shots who didn't deserve it just off of something like that? It doesn't matter that much. I mean, yes, you're right. There are a few plays, and you pull up Elway's highlights and you'll see some throws that you go, I don't know. That's like guy could walk on water almost. That's insane. I can't even believe that even happened. But like, how many Super Bowls did we win in those years? 0. Like he got us there, but like you needed to do more. Like you needed the full. I mean, to me, it's just like he needed Shanahan to go to the next level and really take the offense to be dominant. And Shanahan was like the real mastermind of the offense, and Elway was like the tool that was used to get there. And it's happening with his son, with Brock Purdy, and that's what Sean Payton was. I mean, is this going to be interesting? Because Bo Nix is going to be the total test case of Drew Brees was the reason they got the Super Bowls, or was it Sean Payton, or was it the combo? Because Sean Payton still succeeded with way less QBs, not to that level, but now that Sean Payton has what some people are saying, Drew Brees Jr., how's that going to turn out?
Yes.
So it's just going to be fascinating.
Hopefully, at the very least, it's the second best quarterback in the division.
That's your floor right there.
Hopefully. I think this year, Bo can definitely be better than Gardner Minshew. Can he be better than Justin Herbert? We'll have to see how all this stuff with the Chargers goes. But
this is going to be fascinating with the Chargers. Man, they haven't looked good, and he's got the foot injury. And I believe in Harbaugh. I honestly think he understands how to build a football team, but he doesn't usually flip it on a dime because it's usually from the inside out where he gets trench people, and then he slowly. I mean, he let Keenan Allen walk. He let who's the other really tall Williams, Mike Williams walk. So it's going to be interesting to see how Herbert looks this year because he has to change coordinators, he has to change receivers, and he's got an injury. That it could be. I mean, we could be right for the picking this year.
Yeah. I mean, he flipped the Niners over really quickly, but that team was also built a lot kind of more similarly to how he wanted it.
Right.
I think he's really gutting out the current Chargers. In a similar way that Sean Payton kind of gutted the previous Broncos. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I think Harbaugh's a stud coach too. But I also think Justin Herbert's incredibly overrated. Him and Lamar Jackson are very overrated.
Oh man, we'll have to have a debate sometime, Marc. Because I love Lamar Jackson. I
like him too. I mean, I have nothing against Lamar Jackson. I just I don't understand why. I don't understand why he won the MVP last year with stats that were I know it's stats, but they're arguably not even as good as like Russell Wilson's stats. If you look at them, it's pretty wild. But
I don't even know.
Dual threat ability. It's the dual threat ability. Like you're right. He's an overrated passer of the football for sure. But like Elway was, he just on third down and whatever, he can just make something happen if he needed to because he has unbelievable like legs and wheels. And Baltimore is always just built so tough on defense that you just keep it close. And then you have a guy like that. That was the whole Broncos, like forever and ever, just have a good defense. And then we get late in the fourth quarter and Elway go win us the game, and that was the whole thing. And you can't live like that unless you have a really, really special quarterback like that. That's what's encouraging about this team is I honestly feel like Bo Nix's ability to kind of figure out something on the fly is super underrated. I think he is absolutely elite at that. And in college, he did it so many times and people just chalked it up to, oh, Oregon's got a weird offense or, oh, their talent is unbelievable in the Pac-12 and blah, 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 even though the Pac-12 was way better than normal. And even though his number one receiver he got drafted late, like slid all the way to the fourth round and isn't doing anything. It's not like he had world beaters over there.
Yeah.
But he can do the other stuff, the little stuff that, like we were talking about third downs, how he doesn't get into long third downs. And that 1st and 20 where we were talking about earlier, immediately got 10 back on a run when nothing was there.
Yeah.
And then the next play opened it up again. And that play that you guys were talking about to Sutton, that post, he did that exact same play in the joint practice. And so he saw it's the pre-snap stuff again that he's just seeing ahead of time, and he's hitting guys. He knows when people are going to be open, and just it'll be interesting to break this game down. I mean, he didn't have nearly as many attempts. I think he only had, what'd you say, like 8 attempts?
He was 8 of 9, and it was really just that kind of duck that he threw in the flat. I don't know if he intentionally.
He went like this after he threw it, which makes me believe like, oh, that's on me. I just threw it.
Oh, he just screwed it up. Yeah.
But again, like if we're nitpicking, if we're that level of to the level of, oh, he had 1 incompletion, let's really have to break it down and what happened. Like, give me a break. That was fine. And it was one of those ones
so
that most
calm
people,
this week too.
Yeah.
Footwork looks better.
And
yeah, he was good.
A part of me was like, oh, Sean Payton gave him this start because he knew that Matt LaFleur was not going to play his starters. He was probably going to look good. He wants to roll with Bo Nix. But that being said, he proved it in the practice against the ones. And then he came out and he should have looked good tonight, and he did. And, man, did you see Tim Patrick's, like, the joy was so back on that touchdown? He saluted the fans, like, so hard. I mean, I just love the fact that can you imagine sitting out for 2 years and then you finally get a touchdown at home and everybody's going, wow, that's just got to feel like so good. I'm happy for that guy.
Yeah, I was happy for him too, for sure.
All right, I know we got to wrap things up. Again, guys, thanks so much for sticking with me, jumping on here. Jesus had a good question here. Is Strnad or Griffith making the 53?
Good question.
Marc, I think you said both in the chat.
Yeah,
I'd agree with you. I think both make it as well. Jeremy?
Yeah, I think both. Strnad is a core special teamer, and he was playing really well defensively too. So you can rely on him to plug in. Griffith also phenomenal special teams player, and also could start at inside linebacker. So I think without a doubt both of them make this team.
Well,
I'd be shocked if either of them get cut.
Yeah, you got Singleton and Barton for sure. Yeah. And then is that 3 and 4 because Sanders is basically hurt?
Yep.
So yeah, you're probably keeping 4.
Yeah, I guess we cut one of our other inside linebackers after last week. I forgot his name, but
Alex Mock.
Yeah, Mock. Yeah.
Well, and I saw they brought him back.
Oh, for real?
Yeah,
they brought him back because they cut somebody else. I don't know. It was like somebody got IR'd or somebody got.
Maybe he'll be a week 3 preseason hero because we'll have a.
Yeah.
He's an Air Force guy, so we got to root for him. He's an Air Force guy.
Yeah, we got to. But all right, guys, I'm gonna wrap this thing up. Marc, Jeremy, couldn't be more thankful of your time coming on here for the Broncos postgame. Shout out to everybody in the chat. You guys make this really fun, very enjoyable. Awesome. I think we're gonna try and keep this up throughout the season, whether that's after the game or during the week. It would be really great. But Marc, let us know, you got any other videos coming up this weekend or this week that we should keep an eye out for?
No, I appreciate it. I just always got something. I don't I always talk about my channel. I don't really pre-plan a lot of things. I don't edit the videos. They kind of just come as it goes, but I'll definitely have some fantasy content, but we'll break down a lot more of this game, and I'll definitely have my official 53 man roster prediction and kind of go through that and talk about it and really see how close I was.
I love it.
If I could be off by 1 to 3 players, then I'll be pretty happy. But just a lot more Broncos news. It's an exciting time to be a fan, man. So a ton of things to talk about for sure.
Yeah,
Marc is like Bo Nix. He's an elite improviser. That's what he does.
I just roll with it. I'm like, let's figure it out. Let's talk about it.
It's beautiful. All right, Broncos country, we're gonna let you go. Yeah, be sure to smash that like, leave your comments in the comment thread on the replay, subscribe to our channels, and as always, y'all, go Broncos.
See ya.
All right.